Hello my friends, and welcome back to another video. Today we will explore the possible connection between two of 40k's most intriguing characters, Alpha Primus and Leetu. Yes, you heard me right, and if you have watched and enjoyed any of my previous theory videos, you know that I will be scraping the bottom of the barrel and speculating wildly at how these two are in fact one and the same. We'll be going over their unique similarities, the things that make them stand out amongst their brother Astartes, and how all of these things connect them more than any other. Before we begin, I humbly ask that if you enjoy the video, please don't forget to give it a like. Subscribe if you want to see more videos like this, and sharing goes a long way into supporting the channel and its future growth. I'd also love to hear everyone's thoughts in the comments section down below. Do you think this could really be possible? What could it mean for the future of 40k? Do you think it's dumb and want to vent out your own personal frustrations towards a random guy on YouTube? Go for it. Let me know how wrong I am. If you really like what I do, feel free to consider supporting me by contributing on my Patreon or clicking that join button on YouTube. Any and all support is massively appreciated, and is a huge motivation for me to keep making these videos and improving on the production value. So, without further ado, let us begin. We'll be starting the video off with Leetu, as if Alpha Primus truly is the ancient Astartes, then Leetu most certainly came first. Leetu is a prototype space marine created using the gene stock of the Emperor and the perpetual Erda, mother of the Primarchs. He considers these two figures as his parents, but pledges his loyalty primarily to Erda. This creation occurred before the Great Crusade, most likely during the Unification Wars, marking Leetu as one of the earliest successful legionary templates. Speaking of old, that's an antique piece. He gestured at Leetu's thigh-clamped weapon. Mark II, Phobos? Leetu shook his head. M676 Union model, pre-Phobos. Mark 0, you might say. Made before the accord with Mars. How old are you? Asked John. Old enough to have been issued it new. Leetu unclamped it and handed it to John. He struggled with the weight of it. This is a real antique, John said. Sickle form mag, side sights, chambered for 70 cal. They use 75 now. So I hear. You don't hanker for one of the new patterns? Leetu took the weapon back and reclamped it. Why would I? He asked. John shrugged. Something new to play with? Improved stopping power? I stop all I need to stop, said the Marine. I'm sure you do. So, what legion were you? No legion. Never assigned? Never anything. Right, sure, but which bloodline? John asked. Which Primarch was your gene sire? Leetu looked at him. My father was Neoth. My mother was Erda. I was one of the first, before they spliced in the gene stock. After Erda was manipulated by Chaos and scattered the Primarchs across the galaxy, the Emperor, though enraged, allowed Erda to flee and live, taking Leetu with her. Whether this was Leetu's choice, Erda's, or the Emperor himself is not known, though it does lead me to wonder why the Emperor, a man who would not allow such a threat to his Great Crusade to exist, didn't have her taken out of the picture. Many people believed that Leetu is actually keeping an eye on Erda for the Emperor, though the Proto-Space Marine says otherwise. Leetu believes with full conviction that it is his job to protect Erda and follow her orders at all costs. Yet, what if this wasn't the Emperor's intention? What if Erda was actually meant to protect Leetu? Of course, Erda would have no idea this was what she was doing. As we all know, the Emperor has a thing about not telling people what's going on, or even letting them know they are part of a plan in the first place. What if Leetu is far more important than most of us believe? What if 10,000 years since the last time we saw Leetu, he had evolved into something or someone else. Alpha Primus. For those of you not familiar with this channel, I have talked about Alpha Primus quite a bit, and this theory certainly still has a part in what I have said before. If the Emperor is fully aware that Leetu will become Alpha Primus, and Alpha Primus is his new body in which to fulfill the Star Child prophecy, then where better to keep him safe than in the presence of one of the most powerful Psykers ever known? Out of sight and out of mind. The ruinous powers cannot find what they don't know they should be looking for. For a full breakdown of my Alpha Primus is the Emperor theory, there'll be a link to that on the video and in the description down below. Feel free to check it out. Now, Leetu, for a prototype Space Marine, has been involved in some borderline absurd scenarios within the 40k setting. Peak of all is standing by the Emperor's side during the final confrontation with Horus Lupercal. Granted, Garviel Locum was there too, and he himself was no more special than any other Astartes, if not for the fact that he is essentially the main character of the Horus heresy. Leetu wasn't introduced until March of 2020 when the Siege of Terra novel Saturnine was released. A full 14 years after the first Horus heresy novel, Horus Rising, back in April 2006. And, in all honesty, Leetu doesn't get that much screen time, so to speak, only appearing in 6 books out of the total 64 in the series, and even then, only a handful of chapters feature him. So, to be standing by the side of the Master of Mankind in the final moments should be, at the very least, worth thinking about in regards to his impact. If that wasn't enough for you, it was Leetu and his uncanny ability to read the Emperor's tarot cards that convinced Rogel Dawn and Constantine Valdor to place the Emperor on the Golden Throne after the battle with Horus, saving his life and the Imperium of Man in turn. That's right, if not for Leetu, a character that barely has any presence during the 30th millennium, the 40k setting as we know it would be a very different place. Leetu's story is far from over. The Horus heresy may very well be the epilogue of Leetu's true story. A story of revenge. Okay, moving on. Alpha Primus. So, what do we know about Alpha Primus? Alpha Primus is much like Leetu, in that his creation is the template for a new breed of warrior. In this case, the Primaris Space Marines. At the very least, Alpha Primus has been an active agent of Belisarius Cawl for the last 10,000 years, which appears to line up very nicely along with the last time we saw Leetu. He is, however, incredibly unique, more so than any Astartes to come before him, for Alpha Primus is confirmed to contain more than one gene seed from the 20 Primarchs, possibly containing all 20. Yes, you did hear me correctly, I did say 20. Belisarius Cawl, an Archmagos Dominus of the Adeptus Mechanicus, was tasked by the Ultramarines Primarch Rebute Guilliman to create this new breed of Astartes, to which Cawl was gifted the Magnum Mater, also known as the Sanct Primus Portum, an artifact containing the gene seed from all 20 Primarchs. To be clear, that also includes the 2nd and 11th Lost Legions. Unfortunately for Alpha Primus, his creation left him flawed. Though incredibly powerful both physically and psychically, more so than any other Space Marine, save possibly an exceptional few, he endures a constant sense of pain throughout his entire body. Some say it is due to the harbouring of more gene seed variations than an Astartes can handle, though I personally believe it is due to his possible connection to the Emperor himself. There are a few more things about Alpha Primus that makes him considerably more relevant to the story than just being Belisarius Cawl's creation. Things that, as far as we know, Cawl didn't intend to be. For one, Alpha Primus is fully capable of seeing the Emperor within the Astronomicon. Yes, see the Emperor. And not just seeing him, but seeing him in his most vulnerable state. Not as a god, but as a man, suffering. Navigators and Psykers tend to feel or sense the Astronomicon. Some have described it as musical or a blinding light. Yet, as far as I can find, there doesn't seem to be any record of anyone actually being able to see the Emperor within the Astronomicon itself. Is this an effect of his multiple gene seed implementations? An example of Alpha Primus' psychic strength? Another reason for me to push my Alpha Primus is the Emperor theory? Honestly, I can't be sure, though it is interesting to think about. The ability to see the Emperor within the Astronomicon is also indicative of Alpha Primus' incredible psychic power. The Proto-Primaris Marine has been speculated within the lore to be one of the most powerful Psykers within the current setting. Now, there isn't really anything that can back this up. He certainly displays he is very capable and above average compared to other Astartes librarians, but nothing completely solid. He is, however, noted by Messinius to be a potent Psyker and mighty, which could be argued as a reliable source and estimation of his strength, at least from a glance. So when it's coming from one of Robute Guilliman's most trusted advisors and the very man the Ultramarines Primarch places in charge of training the Primaris Space Marines, I genuinely believe it is something we should take seriously.
Kuhl has a servant, my lord, a Primaris Marine of unusual ability.
Alpha Primus, I read your report, Guilliman said. What did you think? Messinius laced his fingers together in thought.
He was not on show during the demonstration and referred to himself as imperfect. Yet he was a potent Psyker. He
struggled to come up with the right words.
He was something else. Mighty. I think Kuhl was trying to keep him hidden.
Guilliman's lips thinned. I am not surprised. Kuhl always exceeds his remit. I do not wish to know what monsters he has locked up in that ship of his. Did this warrior give you cause for concern?
Beyond his creation? No, said Messinius. Primus protested loyalty and seemed to want to warn me about Kuhl more than anything else.
What did he say?
That the Archmagos cannot be trusted.
Guilliman paused. He made a note. I will look into it. Kuhl is as Kuhl does, his supporters say. He tapped his finger on the table. That is something for another occasion. The second of your original points has the greater weight here, that these new Space Marines lack experience. The best training in the universe cannot make up for that. They must have experienced leaders. Brotherhoods must be forged, bonds made between them, and flexibility introduced into their thinking. Though they are strong, without the ties of brotherhood, they will be outwitted by a more agile foe. It goes further than being unblooded. In truth, they lack direct experience of anything, Guilliman went on. Most of them, Kuhl says, have been in suspended animation for millennia, with only a few days truly awake. They were boys when they were taken. The Imperium they were born into is gone. Everything they know was inculcated into them by Hypnomat. They have no actual training in the main. The usual problems recruits faced post-apotheosis are exaggerated by their sense of displacement in time. They will compound each other. It is vital that we, as post-human creations, hold tight onto our humanity, or we shall forget who we were made to serve. Who knows how much of their essential humanity the Primaris retain? You were your chapter master of recruits. I cannot think of a more qualified man to undertake this task. Alpha Primus may not be one of the most powerful Psykers in the galaxy, but he is certainly formidable, and his potential for growth could be limitless. Okay, time to move on. Let's get down to the point of this video, connecting Leetu and Alpha Primus. Both characters are incredibly capable fighters, with Leetu at one point being able to hold his ground against 7 Wordbearers during the Siege of Terra, until Garviel Loken shows up to support him. This lends credit to Leetu being considerably more capable than a standard Astartes, stronger, faster, smarter, more endurable. He is, after all, directly created from the gene stock of both the Emperor and Erda. As far as power couples go, these two are S tier. For a Space Marine that is just meant to be a prototype, he is sure as hell more than capable of taking on more advanced and arguably more experienced fighters with a general sense of ease. Just a quick mention in regard to Primus's fight with Bile and Porter. Yes, he loses, but that doesn't mean he isn't powerful or competent. Bile is one of the most influential characters within the 40k setting. He is, without question, very important to the plot of 40k, and in order to move the story along and see that chaos isn't left behind in this grand arms race, this development is the obvious choice in order to do that. This is, after all, a story. It has to move forward. Alpha Primus doesn't lose because he's weak. He lost because the story needed him to. Could it be considered lazy writing? Maybe. I personally don't think so. But of course, I obviously have some kind of obsession with Alpha Primus. I won't deny my own bias. This same argument can of course be used in regards to Leetu's feats, which I admit could hurt my reasoning. Psychic ability is next on our list. Now, we don't have any direct blatant usage of psychic ability from Leetu. Nothing like moving objects, levitating, shooting lightning out of his arse, and those kind of things. However, it is widely accepted that within the Imperium, only Psykers are able to truly use the Emperor's turrets. I'm yet to find any definitive source on this, though I'm told the White Dwarf issue 210 goes into this. Unfortunately, I personally haven't been able to find anything that clearly states it. So, for the sake of this theory, I will be accepting this as fact. If anyone can cite a direct source for this in the comments, I would genuinely love to read it. Anyway, with Leetu having been shown to have success with the Emperor's turrets, especially with how he is responsible for saving the Emperor's life by telling Valdor and Dawn to place him on the throne, and with him sharing the direct genetic makeup of two of the most powerful Psykers in the galaxy, it would be fair to wager that this prototype Astartes has potential for being psychically gifted. Now, something that has been on many people's minds and a hot topic since the end of the Death Volume 3 has been the mystery of what happened to Leetu when Horus threw him at the feet of the 4 Chaos Gods. An event that has caused many people to question what happened to Leetu during this moment. Horus holds him up, examining him like some puzzling specimen.
What are you?
The War Master rumbles up at him. Struggling helplessly against the vice of the Talon, Leetu gazes down into the bloodlit face below him. Now he knows fear.
No name to find,
Horus muses.
no blood to match, just a number, LE2. But you spoke a name, Erda. Did she send you here? Did she think she could intervene in this?
She will, Leetu gasps.
She will nothing,
Horus responded.
She is dead. The Apostle Erebus told me how he had her killed in that desert place. Her blood is cold, Space Marine, and you have failed in every duty you were asked to perform.
Leetu's murmur of anguish draws laughter from the crowd. Horus shakes his head and then tosses Leetu away with a flick of his talon. He doesn't bother to look where the legionary falls. Leetu lands on his back hundreds of meters away. He is dazed with concussion, and all the sound is flat and muffled. Everything is dulled and numb except his grief. He opens his eyes. He can see nothing except an enclosing darkness. He can't move. He begins to make out shapes around him. A high, white arch overhead made of smooth alabaster. A sheer wall to his right, faced in gleaming metal. There is a smell. It's a smell like nothing he's ever known. It is rich and cloying, and unlike any smell in material creation. The unique stink of the deep void, seared meat, hot metal and melter fumes, the fragrance of madness, the odor of perdition. The smell is suffocating. His focus resolves. The shapes around him unblur. The wall of metal is not a wall of metal. It is the side of an axe blade rested on its edge. The blade is as tall as a mountain precipice. The arch is not an alabaster arch. It is the curve of a moon-white claw, like that of a raptor, curled up from a scaled toe and over onto its tip. Because the curve of that claw is a kilometer high. It belongs to something. There are things around him, things so impossibly vast he can only see parts of them. The parts nearest the ground where they loom over him. He has fallen in among them, like a discarded bone from a feast table. He is lying in their midst, at their feet. There are 4 of them. One turns its head 1,000 kilometers above him and peers down at him with glazed indifference. There's not even any point screaming. All we know is that when Leetu landed at the feet of these beyond imagining cosmic beings, the chapter ends, only for him to show up again later, completely unharmed, unfazed, no hints of corruption, and then never mentions it again. Did the Chaos Gods just not care? It reads so we could just end it at that. After all, they are watching their plans come out to full fruition at this single point, and even for godlike beings, that could be far too tempting to shift their attention away. But one did look, even with indifference. Leetu didn't go unnoticed. The Chaos Gods aren't one to turn a blind eye to a new possible pawn, especially one that is seemingly so close to the Emperor. Though, maybe they did notice him. Maybe they saw an opportunity in Leetu for a failsafe of some kind, and for the last 10,000 years, they have been keeping a close eye on him, just as one who holds a different name. Primus was in the eye of the storm. The relentless energies of the warp battered at him, loud as hurricane winds. His soul flared and guttered under their strength, teasing out streams of corposant from the glowing form he possessed in that insane and impossible place. Despite the soul-searing pain he experienced, he held his position, seeking enlightenment. Flashes of presentiment coursed through his being, and he saw a complex dancing of stars. A flat world. War. Far off, great and terrible intelligences were becoming aware of him. He felt the shift in the sea of dreams, as of leviathans stirring the water as they rose from the deeps. Something enfolded him. A presence, or many presences, he could not tell. Golden light. A great eagle leapt up from nowhere, twin heads screaming. One head stared at him, the other was blind. The eagle erupted into a cloud of sparks that whirled away upon the psychic tempest. Beyond, he glimpsed the great beacon of the Astronomicon, a figure or figures writhing within its light. Then it was gone. It wouldn't be too far of a stretch to argue that these great and terrible intelligences, these leviathans of the warp, are indeed the Chaos Gods coming to claim Alpha Primus. Now, more than ever aware of the danger he possesses to them, especially if my previous theory video about Alpha Primus is true. The Great Eagle can be none other than an aspect of the Emperor himself, though if anyone has any other ideas, I would love to hear it, especially in regards to the possible multiple figures Alpha Primus is seeing within the Astronomicon. The 2 halves of the Emperor's soul maybe. With the Astronomicon's purifying effects against demons, perhaps it is the best place for the Star Child to reside until it finds its vessel. Okay, and the final thing I want to address, the fact that both Leetu and Alpha Primus, on the surface, do not get recognized as Psykers. Leetu we have gone over. He displays no conventional ability with psychic gifts, yet the Emperor's tarots, something widely accepted as only being genuinely effective by use of a Psyker, was successfully used by Leetu to place the Emperor on the Golden Throne, one of the single most fundamentally defining things about 40k. Also, just because something is widely accepted doesn't make it true. I'm just using this as my justification because I'm a hypocrite and really wanted to make this theory work. Anyway, Leetu, no signs of being psychic, yet performs one of the most impressive psychic feats in the setting. Alpha Primus, though a known psychic, doesn't seem to appear so to other psychics. Garthane's bewilderment at Primus's use of his abilities as one example. Alpha Primus set himself before the rubble and placed his feet apart.
Back,
He said,
further. I have no wish to harm you.
With shared looks, the Primaris Marines retreated to their vehicles. Thracian's men followed. Garthane glanced back. As Alpha Primus raised his hand, fingers spread. His forestave flared with counter-sorcery.
Emperor's bones,
said the epistolary.
He's
Psionic power burst from Primus, buffeting them all, making the hover tanks bob about. The ground cracked under his feet with webs of purple light. From his hand emanated a lash of fire the same color, and where it touched the rockcrete, it exploded upwards and outwards, spun about in the air and whirled away over the precipice. The great bulk of the blockage heaved, as if a flat board had been placed underneath and lifted. A glowing bubble, through which the way was clearly visible, pushed the rubble up and sideways. Primus clenched his fist. The bubble exploded outwards, and the rubble tumbled off the road and down the side of the mountain. His job done, Primus turned back to the group, his eye lenses shining with dying power, and walked towards Cool's transport. Garthane voxed him as he passed.
Why didn't I sense your power?
He said. Primus kept his gaze ahead and his stride unbroken.
The Emperor gave the Space Marines many gifts,
said Alpha Primus leadenly.
I was given more than most.
A wild card of a Primaris Space Marine who is being heavily scrutinized by the other Astartes, and they still weren't able to pick up the fact that Alpha Primus is a Psyker. Even their librarian couldn't tell. I bring this up for a good reason, and this will come in a minute, but just keep it in mind, as it very much relates to the returning and growing popular theory of the Star Child, and how Constantine Valdor is looking for a body for the Emperor's soul. A body with no soul. A blank. We have Alpha Primus, a prototype Primaris Marine, whose soul is barely attached to his body. He says himself his soul is shackled. Primus gives off no signs of psychic ability until he actually starts using them. Primus maintains some form of connection to the Emperor, at least enough to see him in the Astronomicon, and Primus is currently being observed by the Chaos Gods. And now for Leetu, a prototype Space Marine who Horus notes as having no name, a possible indication of being a blank maybe. He gives off no sense of being psychic, until actually performing feats of amazing psychic ability, reading the Emperor's tarot cards successfully. Leetu is essentially a direct relation of the Emperor, and has had a mysterious interaction with the Chaos Gods. Right, let's lead to the conclusion, shall we? So, this is how I have visualized this absolutely batshit crazy theory. The Emperor gave Leetu to Erda for protection, but his true intentions was to secretly have Erda, one of the most powerful Psykers in the galaxy, protect Leetu, without her knowledge of such intentions. If the theory of Alpha Primus being a new body for the Emperor is true, the Emperor knew full well that Leetu would become Alpha Primus, and Alpha Primus would eventually become the new vessel for the Emperor. Alpha Primus is psychically gifted, yet cannot be sensed by other Psykers, much like a blank. Now, I'm not saying he's exactly like a blank, I'm just saying he's not recognized as a Psyker, and this could connect to the Starchild theory. Valdor is currently trying to bring around the Starchild prophecy, which requires putting the Emperor's body into a body of a blank, which then brings Belisarius Cawl into the picture. Last we saw Leetu, he was being held for interrogation after the Siege of Terra, and reveals the Revenger Tarot. What if Cawl, while working on the Primaris Space Marine project, hears a rumour of an Astartes who claims gene stock taken directly from the Emperor himself, and displays an aptitude for the Emperor's Tarot? What more of a perfect specimen for Cawl to have, maybe the only possible being in the galaxy that could contain all 20 gene seeds, the gene seeds taken from the Emperor himself. If Cawl wanted to create his own Primarch, this was the guy. Of course, if my Alpha Primus is the Emperor theory is true, which I doubt, then Cawl will already be aware of Leetu's existence and simply just comes to collect him when the time is right. Now, for Leetu/Alpha Primus, what his future holds is a mystery. Things in 40k are never so simple, and I believe the Revenger Tarot Leetu reveals foreshadows his own hero's journey. He feels that his will and freedom are bound to the desires of Cawl. He doesn't trust him, and with good reason. Leetu likely isn't aware of his purpose as the vessel for his father. He just does what he is told, with no true freedom to act out his own personal desires. And there is only one desire, one aspiration, one goal in Leetu that I think he truly wishes to see into reality. And that is revenge. Revenge for the only person he could have ever loved like no other. The one who raised him, was his companion all those years, showed him a life no other Astartes could have ever hoped to have. Revenge for his murdered mother, Urda. I believe Leetu will seek out Erebus, and once and for all put an end to the most hated character in the 40k setting. For if anyone were to bring an end to someone who has caused so much pain, destruction and death across the galaxy, then the revenge from a grieving son feels poetic enough for me, and I like to imagine others would agree. Thank you everyone for watching this video. If you liked the video, please give it a like to let me know you enjoyed it. If you want to see more, subscribe and click that bell button to keep up to date on new videos. And feel free to share the video to anyone you think would enjoy it. If anyone has anything counter to say to this video, then let me know down in the comments below. Interactions like these massively support the growth of the channel and genuinely gives me that push to keep making videos and exploring topics like this.
Let's feed the algorithm gods.
If you really like this video and want to show your support, you can donate to my Patreon or just click that join button on YouTube. These options are purely there for those who are interested. Though one day, if things really start to do well, I'll be looking at how I can use it to give something back. This might be my last video for a little while, as not long from now I will be moving from the UK to Canada, and will very much be in survival mode as I settle down into a new country and find work. However, I do promise to get a new video out as soon as possible once everything is in place, as there is so much I want to learn and talk about when it comes to 40k. And making videos like these really helps me think on the lore and remember characters and events better. Lastly, before I go, if you would like to see more videos like this, I have a Connecting Alpha Primus is the Emperor video which goes into some more detail on the Emperor's plan. And I also made a Twin Blood Angels Primarch theory video that I put a lot of work into and am genuinely really proud of. If you haven't seen it, please give it a look. At the very least, if you like my other stuff, you will definitely be entertained. Anyway, thanks again for watching, my friends, and ta for now.